So who am I? Why do I think that I can have a say in this world? In this world, we all need credentials, and I don't know what gives us credentials because truth is something that is universal and will sit within all of us. And when we reconnect with that, that is just a a universal way of communicating when a person communicates through truth. And I am nobody special. There's nothing about me that is uniquely magnificent. I don't excel at anything. I am just someone who's really, really wanted to learn how to be the best version of myself that I can be. I think when I was younger, I wanted to be that for God because like I say, I've always been drawn to any spiritual and personal growth kind of thing. I'm a personal growth junkie. I love, love, love figuring out my own stuff and my own shit. I love it a lot. And I have probably been on a very, very active personal growth journey since the age of around 21, I would say. I started having chronic anxiety attacks, like panic attacks landing me up in the ER. And that was obviously the beginning of something much bigger. And it took my searching much wider because panic attacks suck balls. If you've ever had it, you would know. Um, but that really was just the beginning of my journey, and I carried on that path for 17 years, very much searching and trying to find that ever elusive happiness, like this, that saying of that dangling carrot, the ever elusive dangling carrot. I was definitely searching for that. There was definitely a part of me inside myself that knew that things had to be better, things had to get better. But I was still looking outside for these things. And in 2016, I really changed the way in which I was functioning in my life. I started meditating daily. I started learning energy healing. I started practicing energy healing on myself a lot, as well as the daily meditation. And by the end of 2016, I landed up having a spiritual awakening, which was awesome because finally I could understand my ego. I definitely went into it with a lot of tools. Like I say, had been a personal growth junkie for 17 years prior to that. And so going into it in that way, I was quite connected to my intuition based on the fact that for nearly a year of 2016, I had been meditating daily and doing energy healing on myself quite enthusiastically and very, very often. And I had a few major breakthroughs in my life that year. One of the major breakthroughs was understanding responsibility, personal responsibility, and seeing the other side of victim consciousness where I'd been holding myself back, completely justified, not knowing at all that that is what I was doing, and having that veil lifted, because that meant that I was going into things in a very different kind of energy. I was taking responsibility, but that again was just the tip of the iceberg. And when I experienced this spiritual awakening, which wasn't just a one day to the next thing, it has been and still continues to be an ongoing part of my life of integration and learning. Maybe I'm just a really slow learner, I don't know, but I have been constantly learning through that process, and what it has shown to me is that there are certain spiritual lessons which we need to learn to master in order to be able to transcend the ego and to become the driver of our lives. One of those lessons is definitely sovereignty. And I've come to believe that sovereignty for me is one of the most valuable things, because one thing that is promised to all beings on this earth is free will and freedom of choice. Yet, if you look at just the way the governing bodies of this planet function, it's very, very clear that no human being on this planet is actually free. And really, again, I'm sorry if that challenges your belief systems, but I'm just stating the obvious. When we look outside and it's a clear day, we do see blue as the sky. That is what we know as blue. We know what trees look like. And in this, it's pretty obvious that the world that we live in is not what we think it is. And we are not free beings. Nobody on this planet is free. And I have been through a lot of searching, and I've had all these different ideas and concepts come to me, and then friends who would point me to people who also believed that way or were doing far more work on that way. And one of the theories I had was that maybe white people are aliens, because it seems like white people just came and just took whatever they wanted across the whole planet. A whole fascist planet grew, where people were just forced to believe whatever these people were saying and whatever they believed. And if that wasn't the case, then everybody else was considered to be the barbarian. But then when you look a little bit deeper into the history of the world, you'll see that that's not true. The Egyptians were pretty hardcore. There were a lot of South American rulers that were pretty hardcore. And I say hardcore meaning dominating, not just living, let live. And then, you can look in Asia, and there were those as well. Those leaders that were just all about like domination and wanting that power over people. If you look through the history of the world, again, history is just repeating itself. Nothing is getting better. Nobody's learned from history. The fact that we live on a planet where there are wars is it's insane. It really is. There's no need for war. The fact that we live on a planet that people are starving on, there is certainly no need. That we live on a planet where anybody is suffering or struggling, there is no need. There is an abundance in this world. And the way in which this world functions, and the way in which people are ruled is pretty obvious. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to see that it's fucked up. It is. It's totally fucked up. That doesn't scare me, and I hope it doesn't scare you either, because this is just a game. I mean, everybody talks about the movie The Matrix, and honestly, I don't really understand the movie. I've tried to watch it a number of times, and it just confuses me. But I understand The Matrix in a very different way, and we are living in a matrix. And as long as we are still a part of that, as long as we identify with any part of that system or these systems which make up the full matrix, but which is entangled with thousands of minor matrices, if you want to call them that, until you've completely disidentified with all of it, you will continue to keep coming back to this planet. You will keep coming back to feeding poverty and suffering and a lot of violence. And I know you might say, well, I don't condone that. Maybe you're someone who really believes in equality. I know that I do. But can little me, make a difference to stop world suffering and bring equality about to the whole planet? No, I can't do that. That's impossible. That's because each being is sovereign, and each being has to lead themselves back to sovereignty. Nobody else can lead you there but yourself. And I no longer want to be a part of a planet like this. I no longer want to be a part of a matrix like this. It's cruel and it's nasty. And if one person suffers, all people suffer. Nobody should want power over another being at all. That just, again, it's ludicrous. It's hilarious. It doesn't make any sense in my brain at all. I just think and feel and operate in a different way. And I'm sure there must be a lot of people who think and feel and operate in a completely different way to the way in which this world functions. Besides the fact that this world is dense, like really, really dense. You can't manifest very fast. And if you do, you've got to go through all these kind of like filter systems, and everything just gets slowed down completely and entirely. And ultimately, you just feel stuck, and very few people know how to play that game. Very few people know how to actually shift their inner world enough to actually have an outer world that reflects something good to them. And honestly, even if you figure that out, even if you've got your bubble that you live in that feels great and good, I've got a great life. But what the fuck does that mean if anybody else on this planet is suffering? What does my great life mean? It means nothing. Absolutely nothing. Because in my lifetime, I wouldn't be able to help all the people. Everybody's got to be able to help themselves. Like I say, you have to be the change you want to see in the world. And I can honestly say, I don't want to be in this world. So I will be the change as much as I can and as much as I have that in my understanding. But I'm not coming back to this world ever, because it is an infinitely flawed system. And it is designed this way. And you've got to ask yourself, well, maybe it is designed this way. I believe it's designed this way. And I believe it's designed this way to keep people coming back and to keep this planet as flawed as it is, and to keep people as asleep and confused as they are, and struggling and suffering, because then you really can't think about the bigger pictures and the bigger things, and then you're not going to try and reclaim your sovereignty. You're so identified with all of these different matrices that exist, keeping us bound here, and it keeps us bound here in death as well, because whatever you imagine happens to you when you die is going to happen to you when you die. And it will just give you some story that's just going to give you another opportunity to come back, and whatever manipulation that may be. Whether you get told that, oh, you can be with your loved ones again, or whether you get told, hey, you really were a bad person and you can go make things better, or hey, you can be the most powerful person on earth. Whatever the hell is promised out there, it brings you back here. It brings you back to this earth, and it brings you back to not remembering a dang thing about your true nature. Why would you want to do that to yourself? Why would you want to keep bringing people into this world that are going to keep being fodder and have been for millennia, and that's just going to keep on rolling in the same yet a different way, with more technology, but it's going the same way. Nothing in this world is moving forward, and I'm not scared to say that. I don't care if people turn around and say to me, you're totally off your rocker, because that's okay. It doesn't scare me that this is the reality. I don't care. I'm more than a body. I'm more than a soul, and I'm certainly more than, I don't know, something that is being harvested, which is all I have been up until the point of realizing my own sovereignty.